This lecture is about interest groups and the power of organized interests. Objectives for today are as following. We are first going to briefly define interest groups, differentiate between interest groups and parties. Then we are going to look at why organized interests are so powerful. We are going to examine a couple of case studies of powerful interest groups and then evaluate the power of interest groups in terms of, again, elite theory versus pluralism, which should lead us to an evaluation of the role interest groups play and should play in the democratic process. Interest groups versus parties. Both parties and interest groups are trying to influence public policy. An interest group is a formally organized association that seeks to influence public policy. Examples: the National Rifle Association, unions, pro-life groups, pro-choice groups, the National Education Association, the American Medical Association, etc. Parties, on the other hand, yes, they have the same goal, influencing public policy, but they influence public policy by selecting and supporting candidates who run for public office. Once elected, these candidates are supposed to represent the party's position in government. How do interest groups influence public policy? Lobbying refers to any communications directed at governmental decision makers with the hope of influencing outcomes. You looked yesterday at OpenSecrets.org. If you go back to the OpenSecrets.org website, you see that there were actually more than 13,000 lobbyists in 2013. This is just for the federal level. Statewide lobbying efforts are not included in the numbers. Total spending on lobbying in 2012 was $3.31 billion. Top spenders, for example, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, $53 million, the National Association of Realtors, $26 million, or Blue Cross Blue Shield with $17 million. In terms of industries, the top industries are the pharmaceutical industry, $172 million, and the insurance industry, $113 million. Again, much more information about lobbying expenses, lobbying strategies, lobbying patterns is presented by OpenSecrets.org. Why are interest groups so powerful? According to your textbook, organized interests, not the people or parties or individuals, have the most direct day-to-day influence over government. Why? It's a complicated story, but to sum it up, lobbyists create access to governmental officials. And it's all about access. Please note that many lobbyists are actually former members of Congress. So often there's a revolving door from Congress to the lobbying firm. Lobbying is often perceived as having expertise on the issue under debate and are actually consulted by Congress. And probably most important, lobbyists can dispense campaign contributions. Democrats rely heavily on campaign contributions from government employee and teacher unions. Republicans rely heavily on the real estate industry, the oil and gas industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and manufacturing. Lastly, lobbyists can mobilize constituents to apply pressure on behalf of their issue or their group. What are the most powerful interest groups? It is difficult to rank groups according to their influence. However, many studies agree that the following 10 groups are among the most influential. Most scholars studying the influence of interest groups either put the American Association of Retired People, the AARP, or the National Rifle Association, the NRA number 1 or number 2, depending on the study. Both are really, really interesting examples of powerful interest groups. The AARP is so powerful because their strength really lies in numbers. It is the largest interest group. Congress cannot debate prescription drugs for the elderly, Medicare reform, any issue concerning retired people, elderly people, without listening to the AARP. The NRA, on the other hand, is a much smaller group, highly organized. Members of the NRA feel very, very passionate about the issue, no gun control. And although the public is about evenly divided between support and opposition to gun control measures, the NRA has been really, really successful in defeating, I can say almost any kind of gun control measure, even measures the public overwhelmingly supports. Safety checks, background checks, safety locks, waiting periods, closing the gun show loophole. These are measures the public supports, yet the NRA has always opposed them successfully. Other powerful interest groups are the National Federation of Independent Business, the American Israel Foreign Affairs Committee, a group not many people have heard about, but they lobby on behalf of Israel and in favor of close ties between the United States and Israel. Another one would be the Association of Trial Lawyers of America, a union, the AFL-CIO, the Chamber of Commerce, the National Beer Wholesalers of America, the National Association of Realtors, and the National Association of Manufacturers. Are interest groups good for democracy? Let's go back to pluralism versus elite theory. A pluralist evaluates interest groups using the following assumptions. The pluralist would argue interest groups mediate between the individual and the government. Individuals can express their opinions through groups. So individuals are not powerful. Once they join a group, they become powerful. Membership in organizations is widespread and represents all individual interests. Everyone who has an interest can join an interest group. Those groups then efficiently translate members' interests into political demands. The core assumption of pluralism: everyone has equal access to the political resources necessary for success. So then, by definition, interest groups are good for democracy because they link the individual to the political system. They translate individual demands into group demands. Groups compete on a level playing field, trying to influence public policy. On the other hand, elite theory looks at interest groups somewhat more critically. Interest groups are more likely to represent the haves than the have-nots. Members of groups typically come from middle and upper class backgrounds. Not everyone is equally likely to join a group. Business, labor, and professional organizations dominate among organized interest groups. Not every group has equal access to decision makers. According to the textbook, interest groups protect the values of the established elites. Rather than advance social changes, they help maintain the status quo. Their influence is largely based on their ability to mobilize financial resources, so all groups are not equal in their ability to compete for their members. On the other hand, I would add that interest groups do not always maintain the status quo. If we look at the major changes throughout the 20th century, civil rights movement, women's movement, we can see that those changes were brought about not by individuals. Individuals alone can do very, very little, but by groups.